Call the July 25th, 2023 Prairie Planning Commission meeting order. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the June 15th, 2023 meeting you have in front of you.
I move to approve the June 15th meeting minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Copper Hills preliminary plat.
We have a couple gentlemen representing this in the back.
Good evening, Taylor Lindley with Craft and Toll Associates. I'm the civil engineer on the project. So I believe you all saw the PUD for this, maybe a few meetings back or a few months ago. This is the preliminary plat that's accompanying that, and we're complying with the requirements set forth in the PUD. Showing 589 lots to be built over 8 phases. With community space, green space, 2 detention ponds, water and sewer extensions, and some potential upgrades, to off-site sewer, barring some analysis further down the road. So tonight, all we're asking for is approval of the preliminary plat. I can answer any questions you all have. Next steps after this will be submittal of our construction plans for the different phases to the city for review by a consultant. Like I said, I'll be available for any questions. Thanks.
First off, I think we expect that street on the eastern boundary to be a through street. From the border, the original concept plat that was submitted had a street that went through on the east, and I think you just like about a block.
Kind of stub out to the east.
No, the north south.
Oh, north all the way up to Boston or Border Street.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. And I didn't realize that was.
I had mentioned that to Jesse when I
Okay.
had a conversation a few weeks ago, but I don't know if communication broke down or what.
Okay. We can look into that.
What is your total green space total?
As far as area,
Yes.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. Maybe
You know, if it's more than 6 acres.
surely, including the ponds, definitely.
Well, the ponds don't count.
The park dedication or the parkland dedication requirement is an acre for 20 acres, so that would,
Okay.
I think require 6 acres for the, isn't that around 120 acres?
Yes, sir.
119 point.
So close to 6 acres is the part. Now, they could get part of that in lieu of it with cash, sure they want to do as well, so. JP mentioned this road, I think also probably there'd be an expectation, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, that be a collector street as opposed to a standard local street, so
Okay.
35 instead of 28, just on that one street.
Okay.
All of the, I guess the green spaces that you're showing, are those expected to be turned over as green spaces? Or you have those highlighted like, I'm assuming drainage easement potentially?
The one through, one that you just kind of put your finger over, I think is intended for cross access for sidewalk connections through their mid-block cut throughs.
Is that what these are?
So, yes.
So they would actually have a sidewalk, okay,
Yes.
that's nice.
And then, just so people don't have to walk all the way around the block, they can cut through the mid-block, and then, we haven't nailed down, different amenities for the different green spaces, whether that's a playground structure, what that all looks like throughout the site, but that will come phase by phase.
Is Pond area off Butler? Is that going to be a park area? Where the big pond is there off of Butler?
Butler's the road on the north, right, which pond are we talking about?
The existing pond.
Oh, the existing pond, we were planning on filling that in.
Oh, that is good.
Cause it should fall, the existing pond should be right around that green space in the middle of the side, surrounded by all the pink lots.
This one?
No, further north, the pink, yeah, that one right there. Somewhere around
I
that.
think originally, the original plat that showed it remaining and that being part of the green, or part of a little park area.
Yeah.
Probably. Right into that.
No, that's over there off Pittman, that's a different area. Oh, that right there is where it shows.
Okay, that,
Right there. Yeah, so concept plan did show it remaining.
Okay. I think we just determined that it wasn't needed for the drainage analysis. The two ponds that we're showing being to be constructed are sufficient for the drainage requirements.
And just an FYI, planning commission, we do have the drainage plan on this submitted. Our engineers have it, our engineers, I think, are on vacation this week, so it's probably 2-3 weeks before they have a chance to review it, but it is under review right now. So they have submitted it within the deadline.
and I guess what, if you can see where this green space here is going north and south along between what you're showing as artillery and lieutenant.
Going with the green space right there in the area.
Is that just connectivity to area 4, or is that?
Yes, those are gonna be a different type of unit most likely, that will be more dense as far as connected townhomes potentially, and then all that green space should be public green space for those property owners.
Can you kind of give an overview of these lots and tell the planning commission what various types of housing are gonna be, that are gonna be in those?
Sure, mostly general single family, varying in sizes. You've got the lots that are, phasing, I guess that'll
I've got
work. So
phase one.
that'll work. So the orange area, phase 2, those are kind of the bigger lots. Maybe some in the purple. Generally speaking, they're gonna be in the 50 to 60 foot lot width. And then they get a little denser from there. I think the smallest lot width on the single family is down to 40. And then anything smaller than that is gonna be some sort of connected townhome.
Zero
style.
line,
Correct.
and there'll be 2 units built on the property line.
Potentially up to 5 or 6. There'll be kind of, when you think of garden homes or townhomes that are, I think the most we have is 6 on any specific building plan right now.
And I don't think they submitted some design plans with concept, but I don't think we've seen anything since then. I don't recall seeing that format.
Right, I don't think we've updated any.
I think the planning commission is gonna want to review that, and make that part of their process.
Okay.
If that, fair.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the next question.
Sorry, take the question.
Out of 8 phases, what's the timeline for each phase?
We generally plan for about a year, from the time the dirt starts turning. Hopefully we can have utilities and the first phase will always take longer, so I'll say that way first. The first phase or 2, we probably plan on 2 years, but then after that, you're looking at, every year or so turning over another final plat on the next phase.
I think we've got quite a few people here in the audience that are probably interested. Let's just talk about the phases real quick if we could. First phase, primarily will access off of Pittman Street, correct?
Yes, Pittman and Butler, we need to make connections,
Okay, yes,
to
there's
both.
a connection right there in the corner of Butler and Ozark.
Right, that's our only 2 streets of, 2 points of access for the subdivision right now is off of Butler and Pittman. So doing that northwest.
Butler and Summit, I'm sorry, I said Ozark, but that's actually Summit Street right there.
So doing that northwest corner
So
makes
this
the
would be
most
in
sense
that
for us.
northwest corner, there would be green space up here in this corner, correct?
Yes, that's just an odd kind of, the way that got surveyed and split up in the past, that was just the kind of the best way to leave that space out. It may make more sense to.
So this area up here would be some type of a green space.
Yeah.
It looks like the only access to that green space is gonna be off of Pittman.
Off of Pittman, correct.
Has the flooding in that green space been surveyed?
We know that there's water going that way. My goal is to get more of it going south, so we have
That's
a
right,
plan
my
for that.
yard currently. So I'm very concerned with the homes that you've built, creating even more flooding into my yard, in my neighbor's yard.
Which parcel are you
It's
northeast,
very north,
northwestern Falls? Oh, you're
You're
north of that?
yes.
Okay. I know the water, where I saw it going on our survey from that cul-de-sac as it pushes northwest, kind of through that one house that's surrounded by our purple there, off of Pittman. So,
Yeah, what I know about that water that comes through your yard, it's always come that direction. I remember when we did the Cleveland Street drainage project, we actually put that cutout in the curb because of that water that was coming out.
Yeah.
But your concern is you don't want it to increase.
No. No.
we understand that.
And then also, fencing, does fencing go around that green space?
We don't know yet, because it will depend on how that green space gets transferred, if that becomes, you know, a city park property, which I don't know if that makes the most sense, if it's remained in the POA. There's also the potential, if we decide that that's not really useful for anybody, that we just increase the depth on those 3 lots on the north side of the cul-de-sac and have them go all the way up, and those just become bigger backyards for those people to maintain. But that hasn't been nailed down yet. I think it's gonna be a conversation with the city on who maintains that into the future.
Yeah, and we've had some of those conversations in the last couple of days, so that is concerned about the city.
Question about the streets. Did you say that, where would the entrances be off Butler and Summit and there?
This would intersect with Summit, the street here. And then the planning commission just had a discussion about this street actually going all the way through and intersecting with Border. I'm assuming that might affect this entrance, then you might do away with it. If we did that.
Potentially, yeah, those may be too close if we do that. So.
We put 2 streets pretty close together. I mean, I don't know if it gains you anything, but eliminating that or not, it might.
We'll play with that layout.
But I think planning commission would rather see this street go through. So that there's a continuous street north to south, all the way to the south pole. That way his property opens up to the south. Especially, this property actually gets pretty close to the highway.
One more parcel.
One more parcel over, so eventually, that road could potentially go all the way to the highway.
Another question about the Butler Road, will that be widened?
It will be a requirement that they have to widen their frontage.
Okay.
So just like Mountain View did down the street, they will be required to widen it.
So it will go for them still.
They will widen on their side of the street to the length of their subdivision.
Yeah, generally we work from center line of the existing streets out.
Usually that amounts to about, that Butler's fairly wide to begin with, but it'll be from the street, but additional width, I don't know the exact measurement. But
What do they estimate the traffic increase to be on Butler?
I think there's enough, between Butler and Pittman, Pittman trying to get west to there and then down to the highway. I think there's gonna be pretty good distribution here between north, west, and east. And then if the parcel to the south ever develops, then direct access to the highway on the south would be
Yeah,
a pretty
with,
decent split.
with Butler having direct access to the highway. Is there any thought of putting a stoplight down there? Putting something this,
Generally speaking, on intersections with the highway department requires any sort of traffic study to be run by them. And it has to prove certain levels of what they call them warrants. Doesn't warrant a traffic signal there, and we have to prove a certain amount. That has not been studied to my knowledge.
I guess from my feet, I mean, I certainly don't feel comfortable approving it tonight. I want to see the street connected through. I like a little more answers as far as the green space and try to get that nailed down with the city, what the space is gonna be used for, a total acreage count. And as I said, there appears to be just a few places that are just kind of thrown there. If we've done that just to get the acreage count, I mean, I certainly don't agree with that.
Well, and I wonder if the ponds were included in your green space count at that time too, how that would affect. So those ponds are pretty large.
If the ponds are included, it's well over 6 acres. I believe it's 6 acres without that, but I'll double check that, confirm the numbers, and then send an email to staff, and they can let you all know.
In those green space areas, like you were saying, it'd be nice to know what would fit there, who is responsible, what ideas we have, because what makes the PUD, appealing for me is how does it add to the community as it brings in a lot of people to the community. How does it provide things for the community? And so right now with blank, it is hard to tell. Whereas in the other preliminary, it was like, here's where the soccer field would be, here's where a kid's place would be, here's where the walking trail and this would be, you know. The other thing I had a thought of, this is just, has nothing to do with what we're saying here, but as we bring in all the development, how do we ask some of these developments to add to the community in certain ways? Like we say, the green space, but you can buy your way out of that. You know, you can transfer it with money. I think about, like, I met with the superintendent and talking about school stuff and school growth, and it's like, where do we grow with some of these, and where do we serve all the kids? Like, how many homes did you say?
589.
So 589 doors,
Is that?
talking 750
All eight phases.
to 1,200 kids. That's a school
Yeah.
district, you know, and so it's like, how cool would it be to somehow negotiate or work with, or work the school or whatever it would be to get maybe an elementary in a location that's close to the bypass, but close to that many homes. Not that that's their responsibility, but I'm thinking it's like, how does a soccer field play into the community? How does a children's play place or a big walking trail, or all the things that make these communities unique, that also help Prairie Grove stay unique? How do we serve the school and the kids? You know, if we have a higher density location, small kids in a school with higher density, an elementary with small kids in a higher density location, it would be a plus, I would think. Whereas older kids can drive, you know, with the younger kids, you get a lot more foot traffic because parents work. And then you also get a lot more cars. So the closer they were to the school, the less traffic get provided everywhere else until the kids are older, and then they drive and then provide traffic anyways, unless they're skipping, which they do. But, you know, it's how do we, I don't know, work with the school or work with the developers to get something that says, yeah, it's not just a bunch of houses, because sometimes it looks like, with you got all these rectangles in here, that just looks like trouble sometimes.
And you think that the bus transportation as well.
Well, yeah, I'm in agreement with Brian, if the developers could put their footprint on helping with an you know, if they're gonna be bringing in this many people, put their footprint on helping with that educational stance.
Yeah.
You know, in our community, that would be like something absolutely amazing.
Which is not really your responsibility,
No, it's
because
not
your
your
responsibility is
But
infrastructure and margins, and I understand that, just like the planning commission's responsibility is not the school. But most of us that are well-rounded, we're thinking of the community, the foot traffic, the driving on that road that we all drive on, and then it's the school traffic in the mornings, which is already awesome. And then it's how do we serve that many more kids,
yeah,
even over an 8-year phase, which, you know, with new communities and new needs, we're gonna have new needs at the school, and we'll find ways to address them. We always do. But how do we partner with some of the developers? I guess is more of a way that I'm kind of looking to phase this, is how do we partner and say, hey, with something that large, does the school, do we let the school know, start looking at that lot beside it, purchase it? You know, maybe it has nothing to do with the developer, except for you provide the road
yeah,
that feeds a school, and we get the school to already say, we would love to have an elementary there. We need this kind of jack or this kind of millage or whatever to get that going. You know, I would love to see how it kind of affects more than just this community and this set of 598 houses or whatever he said. You know, it would be helpful to me to feel more comfortable with the vision, I guess, and that's not your responsibility. That's more like our town kind of doing it, but.
I will say, to piggyback off Ryan, and I like this style of development, to be honest. Like, I think, and I've said this before, I think this is a good idea and a good development if we have really good control over how it is built and how it is phased. Because, and like I said at the last meeting, but I'll say for those of you here, this land is gonna be developed at some point. It is our job to control that development and what it looks like when it goes in, so that we can maintain a good school, we can maintain a good community. So without having a lot of the answers to some of the questions, I'm really uncomfortable at this point moving forward with this, because I think some of the big concerns we had from the community is what kind of houses are these gonna look like? What kind of green space is this? What kind of timeline are we looking at per phase? What's going in per phase? And that's the perk of a PUD. And that's why we liked this development in a PUD, because we had a lot of control over it and working with y'all. And I think with things changing kind of significantly from the concept plat that we received, I'm a little hesitant to move forward until we get some better answers.
And what will the housing price range be? I don't know that.
I mean, in fairness to them, I don't think they can say at this time.
Yeah. We're
It's all
there yet.
market driven.
Yeah,
It's market driven, and by the
Yeah.
time they get this thing ready a year from now.
but I mean, is it gonna be you know?
So it's a mixed
low
use,
income
it's a mixed use development.
To
Yeah.
to a high income family?
You're gonna
There's-
have
Talking more
townhomes.
density.
Yeah.
We deal with density rather than price.
I think generally you're gonna be looking, the single family homes are gonna be somewhere between 1,800 square feet and 2,400 square feet. That's the general range we see on their typical single family. And then I can see the townhomes ranging down to like 1,000 to 1,500, depending on the.
And lot sizes with your single family homes is very similar to. A little bit smaller than Sundowner, but very similar to
Just
Sundowner.
smaller than Sundowner, but, trying to think of an equivalent, Mountain View is probably a good equivalent.
So all the areas in the pink and the orange would be very similar to the Mountain View estate lot size. And then all of our blues would be very similar to.
Richard.
Yeah.
To what?
I was trying to think of the one off Richardson Road, it's a smaller one.
Highland Green.
Highland Green.
Pardon me. We can speak, right? Yeah. Okay, can you show the south part of that? That's where our property is going.
Which part, right?
7.
That's the south half.
So, oars, is that oars there? Or that
That's
is
the
us?
property.
That's us.
South, is it Dwight?
I'm not sure why that's the place, and then it's filled with boards.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's power lines going out to there, power lines. and
This can't be the power line, is it?
That easement, the power line,
It shows an easement.
that's over there.
And then where's the sewer location?
Sewer will go off to the west, generally following the power line easement.
Okay, following the power line.
So what we do with these lots in the power line easement, they just have to.
They'll be sit, yeah, the houses will sit way back, they'll have a really large front yard.
I can see where they're long and narrow.
And we're working with AEP on all the encroachment agreements with their easement.
Couple things they didn't mention, I think it'd be good to see added as well, those, where those cross sidewalks are gonna be going through. I think they need to be indicated on there because, I think that's a great walkability part of this subdivision. I think it's great to have that.
Is there gonna be fences on that south side?
Most likely, they generally leave it up to the buyer of the home.
The builder of the house determines whether or not it's
Some home buyers don't.
we don't have any requirement for fences, but I would say 95% of the people that build houses, the fence goes up when the house goes up.
And most of the green space is set right in the center, is that correct?
Yeah,
Or is it gonna be spread out where one side over by Butler's gonna get a green space and another side over by,
Can you see that pretty good?
yeah.
I think it's pretty.
As it is, it's pretty.
Space, big green space there, another big green space there, so they're mixed.
Oh,
There's six of them total
Okay.
spread out. Yeah, another one up here, another one over here, but they're spread throughout.
Yeah,
And, this one and this one are really good sized green spaces, that's the length of a block, that takes up the better part of the block there, so I mean, those are big enough to put like some playgrounds and athletic field, those types of things.
Do we, this is a random question, but do we require any parking for green spaces that would house like a soccer field?
There's nothing in the ordinance that requires it. That's not to say that if it's a public park,
Right.
that it would be required.
I think that's definitely something we look at if we do, any of this does become city owned and we wanna do something. If you put 100 cars in that neighborhood on a Saturday morning, that's a problem.
I don't think that's a good use
Yeah.
for the middle of the neighborhood.
Me neither. Okay.
Well, I was thinking, I was gonna ask the same question, but with the densest housing units, what the parking look like would be a great thing to know, cause like with your single family homes, we know, typically gonna have a 1-car garage, typically got 2 cars in the driveway and 1 on the street. So we kind of have an idea there, but with your denser units,
The block centrally located is the most dense, and we've provided some on-street parking for those, for any guests. They'll still have their own driveway, but any guests can park in those spots. And then the rest would be intended to have on-street parking if guests are visiting.
So the green spaces didn't say there was a park or 2 in there. They're mainly for the housing addition, or are they gonna be open to the public at Prairie Grove, or?
That hasn't been determined yet. If the city sees a public need for them, the city may want to go ahead and accept those into our park system. We don't see a public need. If we see them more as kind of a localized park, it probably will remain part of their property owners.
We generally see them being maintained by the POA, but we're also not throwing gates up in the subdivision, so anybody that wants to access them has.
But I'll be real honest with you, this subdivision is probably the most equivalent thing we have in town to Sundowner, size wise. And I really wish Sundowner would have had these same green space amenities, because we get people out there all the time saying there's no parks left. Of course, they're across the battlefield, so they're, it's not actually true,
But not really walkable.
yes.
Yeah. It's hard to. Yeah.
It would have been great if there had been green space, break that up.
Is some of the full-grown trees on the property and stuff expected to be saved, or?
We generally try to work with the topography to minimize that the best we can, but in the areas where, the only areas that we really have the opportunity to control the trees are in the few green spaces, because the rest will have home construction all around them. I do know that there's one large one in area 5 that I'm trying to make sure we maintain it, so it's a good size tree.
It's tough by the time they get to grade for drainage and streets and utilities, there's not much left that get disturbed sometimes.
Most of it's gonna be in the tree line, on the fence line anyway.
I don't think there's a lot of trees.
It's not, in the open field area, there's not a lot. There's no.
Is there anyone else in the audience that has any comments or questions they'd like to ask?
Where will we be connecting to the water main?
Water main is,
What areas?
there's a water main along, Butler, and then it kind of cuts down through our site, through that cul-de-sac area out to Pittman. So those would be our main points of connection.
Yeah, there's actually a 12-inch water main on the 2 sides of this right now, so. And I'm pretty sure, I haven't seen the construction plan yet, but I'm pretty sure that will be looped through from Pittman over to Butler.
Correct.
How many currently subdivisions and homes are approved and in the works of being built?
I think counting this is 1,100
1100 currently, not this one or with this one?
With
with this.
And do keep in mind, this one won't be built completely until 2030. So it is gonna be, that's one thing, when they did look at the concept, they wanted it, planning commission asked for it to be phased out over a number of years. And I think that is something that's important, Chester, somebody come up with something in writing and submit that, saying this is the phases and this is what they're gonna do.
We can detail something out. I fully expect it to be pushing a decade by the full build out.
I think 7 years is a good time, right?
How long are we expected to see construction across the street? 7 years?
In defense of that is if you did it all in a short time frame, your school probably would
I
really
know.
struggle. And so it's an inconvenience to everybody who lives in that area,
Yeah.
but I think most of us would put the kids first and just phase it. And it does stink though, because that's a lot of noise and traffic for a while, but it's going to get developed, and that's the thing that we keep coming back to, it's going to get developed.
I will
So
say,
how do we develop in a way that doesn't just really, really impact the kids the worst?
yeah, I will say, we generally try to take a mass grading approach, look at the whole site to make sure we're doing that efficiently and effectively. So generally speaking, probably not on one this size, the whole site gets disturbed, but a lot of the site gets disturbed to get the dirt moved around right. And then, by DEQ requirements, we have to stabilize that disturbed material, within 14 days of work ending. And so that generally happens, and then that area up north by Butler, particularly in the northeast corner, will likely sit just green for another 5, 6, 7 years, because that's our last phase. We're kind of working counterclockwise.
Across from you is the last one.
Yeah, so you start in that northwest corner and then go south, and then you fill all the way back up.
By then I'll be senile enough. I won't care.
And just an
But
FYI, from the city's standpoint, the reason we wanted this phase was not necessarily, I mean, yes, it helped the school, but our primary concern was keeping, utility capacity ahead of it. And we've got some things that are gonna need to be done before the later phases are done. They're fairly small projects, but they will have to be done to get the capacity for this. And we feel like 7 years is plenty of time to get that done, or at least Public Works feels like that.
We also talked about, and this is something that's important to me, is that we would approve each phase. It would have to come back to us,
Okay.
and that helps us maintain, you know, if we see the infrastructure cannot handle, we push another year or something, so.
I know Rathcom even talked to us that, you know, if there's something happens in the city doesn't get a project, that they might even be willing to help.
Okay.
Get the project completed.
Our water and sewer and everything is gonna be able to handle.
Yes,
Some of the
and
development.
that's what we're looking at. The first 3 or 4 phases, we've got capacity for right now. We do have some improvements to make along Mott Street and sewer line down Butler that we want to go ahead and put in. That will increase the capacity on the south side of town. Once we get those big projects done, all 8 phases will have capacity.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all Public Works does nowadays, is try to stay ahead of growth and capacity projects. That's all they're doing.
Any other comments, questions? My recommendation is table it until.
I say that.
Can you all confirm that I haven't missed anything on the run through the notes that I've taken? So road through north of border, look at the Collector Street section for that. Elevations or architectural rendering, some sort of information on the homes,
And just general ones, the different types should be.
different types of homes, okay. The Butler widening area, get the area, on the green space, 6 acres is required by code. Who's gonna maintain the green space, kind of further those conversations around, show amenities, show the sidewalks across, and then get a phasing timeline.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing when Jesse gets back down, if he'll meet with Chuck
Sure.
and the mayor
We
probably,
can set something up.
and have a discussion about that park plan. And if you could, like I say, show all the sidewalks that are gonna be cut through and those kind of things too, that'd be great.
Was there anything that I missed?
It's way on down the list, but the street names are not acceptable.
Okay,
And I did tell Jesse that as well.
sure.
About half of them are either used somewhere else or they're awfully close to what streets.
We just throw in placeholders to start off with, and then we generally work with the non.
This is a Civil War cancer. If you use the Civil War terms, you've been used somewhere.
I understand.
And what's the average?
Generally, they're in the average would be right around 1,800 square feet probably.
One more question on Butler Street, would there be a sidewalk on their side of the?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I have a question. So where, like the White's old house is and then the gray house on down, do they still have to maintain that street frontage? Like right across from where Judy lives? Like technically they don't, right? So they get sidewalk, gap, sidewalk?
Yeah, and I think that's something the city probably will come in and at least have continuity on the sidewalk, maybe not the white.
Yeah.
And maybe it's something we can work out with the contractor when he's doing it, just have him do it.
I started to say, could the city partner with the contractor?
I can't speak for Public Works anymore.
Yeah.
but I'll have that conversation with
I think that's important on our end to
You
maintain
might bring
that.
it up as council meeting.
Okay, I'll tell Chuck.
Yeah, so what, Dwight's old house, the silo, is that cut out, and then is it the house right on the curb?
Well,
Here's the house itself, it's in this little
Okay.
white block right
Yes.
here, so it's going
Okay.
around it, but the silo, I think,
Silo
probably
probably
is getting torn down.
Okay,
Can we make that into a condominium?
yeah, really, that'd be cool, huh?
Versus seven.
Probably,
so the two white spots, right, is where
Yeah,
the
so
white
anything
gold
in
and then
white.
the
That's
old
a
Giles
little
house.
rack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'll make a note to bring that up to Chuck.
No, I didn't, I think, no, like I said, that would be my recommendation.
I'll make the motion. Oh, okay.
I move we table the Copper Hills preliminary plat until we have further information.
Second.
A motion second to table Copper preliminary plat. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Jackie, when is the next meeting?
August, 17th, shooting from the hip. I think it's the 17th, but I
So the
don't
next meeting
know.
will be in about 2.5 weeks.
Do we need to do, re-notify, redo public here, or public notifications, or is this suffice to establish the 17th to be back here?
This was the public hearing,
Right.
so I think you're okay. I would tell anybody in the audience,
Sure.
come back to the next regular meeting, and we'll be.
That's fine.
Make that the 11th,
Oh, sorry.
The 11th,
the 11th.
so 2 weeks from Thursday, so you can get that stuff together by then, which you should be able to.
Yeah, I think end of next week, we could have something back to you.
When's Jesse coming back?
Next week.
Okay.
So I'll work with him first part of next week. We'll get our details ironed out and get something back to you by next Friday.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yep.
Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
We'll reconvene as the Board of Adjustment and hear an appeal for relief from dimension requirements for yards with lost in unusual circumstances by Sharon Wright.
All right, Sharon, I'm gonna give a brief description of what I think happened, and if I say anything wrong, you'll correct me, all right? I think, Jackie, probably you became aware of this just while you were out there doing the inspection.
Right.
She saw construction going on a house on Phillips Farm Road. And the concern was, as you can see, it juts out in front of the existing house. The existing house, according to the plans that were submitted by the builder, showed it being right at the setback line, 25 feet. So the amount that it sticks out, which is about 4 feet, we think, without doing a survey, it could be into the setback as much as 4 foot. Although Sharon has done some measurements that makes me kind of believe that maybe it's a little less than 4 foot into the setback. She had no idea that she needed to permit this pergola. I think it was totally an accident on her part, and I think she'll tell you that. Obviously, they spent a lot of time and a lot of money building that. I think it's an excellent place for him to sit and relax. I think you'll see him out there waving at you when you go by. And with that, Sharon, I'll turn it over to you, and you can say whatever you want to say to these folks. Yes, come on up.
Hello, everybody. Hi. I was sitting back there thinking what I was gonna say. And I told my husband when we moved up here from Fort Smith, because he has to be close to the VA hospital. I said, sweetheart, I want us to find a good church. And I want us to be active in the community and meet people. I didn't mean like this. I'm sorry. And when I was sitting back there listening to you all, I really don't know what to say because I've never been in this situation. I want to tell every one of you how sorry we are. We had no idea about that setback. We just thought, and when I say we, it's not we, I'm the guilty person. My husband made a comment that he would love to be able to the rest of his life sit there and watch that area grow. And so I just went berserk, I guess, and started planning how we could make that happen. And we just wanted it to be something that people would be proud of, that, we are very, very sorry. We never, ever, we're not the kind of people that would ever do anything that we're not supposed to be doing. So I do want to tell every one of you, this is the first time I've ever been at a meeting like this. And I am so impressed with every one of you all, because I'm a lot older than most of you. And I grew up in Stillwell, Oklahoma, not very far from here. And we used to drive through here all the time to go to Fayetteville to buy my school clothes and things. And literally, you would blink and miss Prairie Grove except for the battlefield. I'm amazed how much it has grown and what you all are doing. And I had no idea, honestly, the responsibility that you all have. And I'm glad that you're doing this, because it gives me more confidence. When you don't know anybody and you're moving into an area where there's new houses and you have no idea who's going to be buying and who's going to be living there, and you don't want the value of your property to go down, I'm thrilled to death that you guys scrutinize these contractors the way you do. It gives me more confidence that what we've paid for this house is a good investment, honestly. And
Can I ask you something, because I know from the time we talked to you, and Mr. John, that you spoke a little bit about his health problems and how you had to build that way you could be out of the sun.
Yeah.
Did you share that with the planning commission so they understand why you needed that?
well, he was in Vietnam, and that, and then just, he has developed pulmonary fibrosis, which is a terminal illness that, I mean, you don't just drop dead from it, but there's no cure. And he just, the humidity and the heat really bother him. And so, like I said, this reminds me of when I was a little girl and we sat at my great grandparents' front porch, especially the other day when it rained and I could smell where it started to rain. I loved it. And so that was really, I promise you, our only intention was to do that, not to break the rules or the law or to try to get out of paying for something. I promise. If we get to know you all and you get to know us, you'll know, except for my temper every once in a while, that we really do want to try to be good people.
You are redheaded after.
That's right.
You know, I kept thinking, honestly, as I'll be 75 in December, and I kept thinking, surely to goodness, when I get to be an old lady, I'll be nice. And I'm not. So anyway, but so I don't know what we're supposed to ask you to please approve that. Or I got pictures on my phone. I'm not very good
Let
at
me
it.
just reiterate too, would you show me some measurements that you took today, and, you know, all we can do is go by what the builder submitted on his site plan. It shows it being 25 feet from the face of the house back to the, I do think the builder actually built about 27 or 28 feet back. She's got measurements and she's got pictures of the measurements from the edge of the sidewalk to the structure, and it's 297 inches is what I read on her tape measure on the picture, which is 3 inches short of the 25 feet. Now, the edge of the sidewalk isn't necessarily the right of way, it's probably about another foot or two in, but I'm guessing they're encroaching by about 2 feet, not 4 feet, so.
And guys, we've asked our neighbors, because even whenever we got kind of like in the middle of this, and Jackie, by the way, y'all need to give Jackie a raise. Listen, I was so upset when I went in there. I was scared to death, and I started crying, and she was so nice, and she calmed me down. She gave me a hug when we got through talking, and I hope I don't get her in trouble. She told me that she would say prayers for us, and so she's a good person. But anyway, like I said, I don't even know what we're supposed to say. I'm just saying we didn't mean to do anything wrong.
I'll jump in here. First of all, thank you. That was very nice. Like, I just couldn't stop smiling because no one's really that nice when they get up on the podium very often.
Especially before you approve or deny.
Absolutely. I mean, if I wanted buttered my biscuit, you just did.
I love it. I was sitting right there thinking, she's got some good ideas.
I have red hair too, but I just.
Listen, I'm about that thing about approving that her zone. I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you. We work really well as a team. So we set these rules for various reasons, but a lot of times there is a good reason for us to approve something like this. I think it looks very nice. I mean, I think you absolutely provided an upgrade to your home. It just happened to encroach on the setback. There's not much of a problem for me. So
Got a motion to approve?
I make a motion, we approve Miss Sharon, and her relief from dimension requirements for yards or lots in unusual circumstances on 302 Phyllis Farm Road.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the variance. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You're good.
You're good.
See there, the word does it. Thank you all. You all have fun.
Thank you.
Come back sometime,
You know what?
and you don't have to ask anything, just.
Yeah,
come in.
Always there.
Yeah.
Is it all right if we leave my husband?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
At this time, we are gonna meet with our engineering firm on some long range planning, so you're welcome to stay or.
Juliet's not near as nice, so. Just kidding.
Thank you all for your
Yeah.
comments and your attendance.
Yeah. I haven't seen Juliet cry either.
When you were. This time is brown.
I love that shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Making fun of it when I was up there.
Yes.
I've ever enough day.
Yeah.
You, man, what that one that we went through all this for you, you were out of town or something. You were in Texas with. One of them, I couldn't remember which one. That's right, she had her leadership.
Everyone should be required to talk about how good we are before they speak.
I didn't feel like I was getting set up, though. My kids are just.
I know, but it's like my grandma was up there telling me something. I couldn't help it. I love her. You're your best friend.
Everybody needs to know to that.
I'm sorry. Tear it down.
No, I did.
No, I don't want you to tear it down. I just want you to cut 3 inches.
Well, I think it's
You would
more.
make her cry.
Yeah, the problem with the deal like that is kind of.
Yeah.
It does.
But
Well, because I'm gonna plead the fifth then, on the next thing that I do, right? That's your precedent.
we hear people say all the time, it's your business, it is permission, and you know, that is a
That was true.
classic.
When you said 3 inches, I'm like, for 3 inches, you can make a mistake there, and it's not gonna.
That was
Then
the
you
end
said
of
2
sidewalk,
foot.
but it's right away, she didn't find the pin, so I can't be honest. Sure.
So when you said 2 foot, then I was like, oh, that's actually. Yeah. That's.
So it's a road, street right away.
Yeah.
It goes from where the front ends are 25, well, no, it's the house setback. To the part of the 25 foot on the front. From the right. Just right away.
And you measuring all that stuff?
Exactly. 25 feet into your front yard.
It's a consistency, so they.
It worked well with glass.
And where you would want that house that way, next house, that way back. Looking at the view of that down the road.
And the other thing is you've got all your utilities in the front yard nowadays.
Oh, yeah, and you just. You hate the front yard?
I don't like the gas line. No, I like water and sewer.
Start saying.
I don't want anybody else to put it.
So, that's what I was gonna say, for a man that wants some of these things is.
Yeah, I went to back to times. Yeah, I don't know how many sewer services, and I almost guarantee you they cut the ends out.
Yeah.
Because they sent those sewer services over. I mean, when the states are leaning like this, they probably call.
Yeah. Because for us, anytime you're in a rear easement, it's in and out of everybody's backyard, and their dogs, and their turds, and their upsetness and everything else.
Our position is give us the front for the water and sewer, we don't care about the shit.
There's no one for that variance, right? It's not, she didn't build that herself.
Hey, actually, first thing I said to her, I said, this isn't your fault, this is your building fault.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but
And then they broke in crying and screaming and saying, no, I don't want you such a nice girl.
okay, because that's
So
what.
we didn't go there.
Okay.
Because he said, yeah, she said, it's my fault. She said, I'm not gonna put this on my district. What she said.
Yeah.
And she insisted.
Well, it'll just be a fun fight next time.
For some reason, it's showing up a little blurry.
Is
there like an adjustment, honey?
Oh, there's a resolution.
If you wanna get that permit off of your desk.
All righty.
So based on our conversation last time, what I did was went through and these can be named whatever you want. I just was trying to kind of keep it simple. So renamed B1 to mixed use B1. And then rename B2 to mixed use B2. Because we cannot have the zoning districts have the exact same name as the future land use categories.
And that'll be more consistent with the way they've been labeled.
Right, and I thought, sometimes it's good not to make everything new. Okay, and so I think we got all the bypass area. This is the notes that I had, from our last, there are a couple little parcels that I've got question marks on, and I wanna talk to y'all about how we wanna deal with those. Most of them are like just they're random commercially zoned pieces that are just kind of sticking around, and I don't know if they need to remain that or not. And then central business district, if we keep that the same, but we did expand some of the boundaries on that, based on this conversation. And then this area, I'm calling it, the neighborhood mixed use. That's, south of the business district. It right now, a chunk of it is B2, which I think is too intense for this area. Yeah, and so, anyway, and we talked about, looking at this whole area in the future land use plan. Becoming an
Yeah, when
extension.
you look at existing conditions in that blue area, it's a mixed bag of nuts.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything, there's storage buildings, and commercial, and residential, and apartments, there's everything there. Yeah, there's a little bit of everything in that whole area, so that's one reason why I think it was given a few years ago, because that pretty much included anything that was down there.
Right,
How
right.
far is the north on the little distance go? Does it go past the Methodist church there, or is it?
I don't think if we take it on here at all. That's the boundary there.
There's always time. Yeah. I think I had a question on these.
Certain thing, with the digital copy, we can zoom in, maybe.
There's good.
There.
Whatever you did work.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
So it does not go to the Methodist church, the only Methodist church.
Yeah, it's got whole all the way up to.
Yeah, I don't think it changed any brick Yeah, I don't know if you think you need to change it.
Which the Methodist church right now is yellow, which is what?
It's right here.
I know.
And that's what it has been for.
Churches don't necessarily follow zoning, right?
They're typically accurate, I have conditional use.
Actually, they're coming on the planning commission agenda next month.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
As the old church.
And a long story behind that, I will give you that long story so that you'll have the background before next month.
Would it make more sense to change it?
I don't have work on it.
Or not?
I mean, I think best use is some type of residential, but who knows?
The difference is that you're sticking it, you'd have residential on both sides of it. You know what I'm saying? So like, yes, you have the corridor with Mill Street, but you got residential on both sides, so.
I mean, you can extend your CBD does allow for mixed use residential. So I mean, you do have some, you can also do some,
Even from historical preservation, the old part of the Methodist church, that's where I hate to ever see it torn down. And I think a CBD may provide more flexibility for commercial or residential there.
But like, it's kind of a hodgepodge.
Right.
So would it be all of these parcels?
all of it.
Is that right? I don't think that's ridiculous, is it?
It's been, since it's been for sale, we have had every kind of, yeah, we've had every kind of proposal in the world, proposal like that.
Now will it be over the church?
It's a significant square footage, when you think of the multiple hodgepodge of buildings of the church there.
I mean, it would probably increase its ability to be reused.
So let's make that adjustment. What did we do over here? I don't remember. We did some type of walk there.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay. Good.
So if we make that CBD, does that make that close shop, so we need to go back? Would that make it close shop, maybe we go back in?
Well, they could anyway. And I had that conversation. When the legislature changed the.
Oh, yeah, change that. Okay.
It was no longer, it was new point.
What about these parcels, and the,
On the right side of the funeral home. Yeah.
So is that not a house in the driveway back to Sonic?
I don't know.
Secret
I
show.
think the funeral is
Warrant would be the house.
that's overgrown, that's been in the truck for.
There's
This is apartment complex here.
a green, there's an alley going through there.
Yeah, that cuts through
Yeah.
by Sonic, yeah, and then Jerry Blakemore lives right.
Yes, yeah. But there's a record.
Yeah, there was a bit record.
We have that.
It's used for commercial storage.
We're just kind of in the highlighted,
It's right in the middle of that.
and no,
This
it's
is
not,
an apartment complex here.
it's right above the arrowhead. It's Smith, yeah, right there.
Okay. So this is the alley?
Yeah. That's the alley, and that's the green, the other alley, north south,
Where's Sonic?
then orange is orange, and there, the artist.
so. I think they're right now, they're like an extra, one, two, so we want to add them to.
There's residential on the front, then there's commercial building behind, and then there's residential.
Then you get up to
What are they-
the other church.
That's just the open storage building, where we park them.
Oh, that's the funeral home. Okay, gotcha.
And just above that area is another church, or the church at the wall.
Yeah.
And they've got a little rent house that they're in the process of splitting a piece of property out for right now, they're gonna sell it.
Would that not all be CBD? Or what?
Well, it's the highway corridor.
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the neighborhood there.
It's a neighborhood corridor, it's
I'm talking about your question mark.
Take a question, mark, if we see, if you're gonna do anything different.
this is what.
What a funeral home is.
Yeah.
That's part of it. part of the funeral home.
Oh, okay,
It's all pieces on the here.
so, but all this, and then this one.
That's very important. Oh, yeah, that. That's an interior, very important, again. A lot of my.
One in Huntsville, I don't wanna know it.
People care about their dog.
I mean, Lynn made it very clear to the world that I did my animals.
More like people.
I didn't put it quite mark on that.
I'm having it for you.
This
Doing better every day, he still,
in the neighborhood.
still leans to the left. He wants your, he wants your own. Yeah, it's, I can't think of the metal, but it's the bones in the ear. It's similar to vertigo.
Oh, okay.
That would be, this is Neil, that was,
We're gonna get it.
But on your Google map, it shows that.
that's right,
Yeah,
That may be the house behind there.
it is. See, look, but on Google Maps, it says it's buried in the.
Big dance like their
So-
office or something.
It was their office. They had rezoned because they put an office in that building, but I think it's going back to residential now.
I think
Yeah,
it's
that one right there.
Yeah, it's rented.
Didn't they put that white fence up on the front of the property?
But he did have an office in there a year or two.
So do you want it to be?
I think it needs to go back for.
Yeah.
It's a house.
They've done a good job.
I don't know if you remember, but he had a purchase agreement with Jim Reed, Jim owned both of them. And he tore the one house down without even owning it,
Mhm.
and Jim ended up losing that house. I told Jim, I said, it's sitting there, he's all on the tool that house needs to be torn down anyway.
I think that Boo and Leslie are getting to do
And here's one on North Battle.
Yeah, they got that.
Thank you.
this is finished.
So that as long as they weren't building.
As I said, this is where we kind of call out the. It's just somebody's name, because that's the fault behind.
I mean, she told me this.
It's just, it'd be a lot.
Yeah, this is.
And then it's the house. Yeah, it's in that house. So it'd be residential.
He went with it.
And all.
On Martin Avenue.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
From a zoning perspective.
What is it, what are,
Aren't they going into industrial?
they are, but I wouldn't want to do that there and then get replaced with industrial one day. Cause right now we can say oops, but in the future,
I mean, you can rezone it, so zoning is what we, I mean, existing non-conforming.
yeah, I like that better. Yeah, nothing, what a storage unit could be there without our,
You can limit the.
nothing but the existing storage unit could be.
Let me play devil's advocate, just throw something out there that might or might not be a factor here. If it's a non-conforming use, if, let's say a company goes out of business that owns those, and it's out of business for 6 or 8 months, I don't remember what the limit is in the non-conforming use. But once it's out of that use, for I think 6 months, it might even be 3 months, then they're not allowed to use it for that anymore. Why not?
Well, maybe we should look at that. part of the code.
So-
Because that seems a little bit stringent.
That's pretty tight window.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact time frame, I think it's 6 months though, but I think that's the way it's written right now, is that if it's a non-conforming use and they quit using it for that 6 months.
Could
then they
we
can't go
not
back.
have the opportunity to have the approval of that in our new code? Rather than it be 6 months and it's a done deal, be at 6 months, it now has to go in front of the board.
You could absolutely do that.
I would much rather have that than just saying 6 months, because I mean, it would be silly to make someone tear it down. Even though we might want it, if they were just gonna use it for the exact same purpose that it exists.
The financial hit to somebody would be tremendous, and probably spurn a lawsuit along the way as well, but.
So is it okay to still go with the non-conforming if we change the wording?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to ask you was about this R 1.75. What is this?
It needs to be commercial. I started saying, isn't
Well,
that?
isn't that what
That was supposed to
land?
be that second parcel that was, Jerry was going to put the.
Treehouse or RV park, RV park.
It was the B2. Or the green, next to the B2.
I heard he had 2 parcels.
It's the big.
I told him to put it up on the corner, he just couldn't get.
So
The
the
sewer,
duet.
the sewer was the problem, wasn't it?
No, that was that,
Something's wrong here.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's.
This is Steel Meadows. This is the storage buildings right here. This is B2. This is R 1.75.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
But this is Steel Meadows right here.
so the one on the right is a non-conforming.
This is the storage building right here in Sprout.
Well, do you wanna change it then to the? So that one, we wanna change it to.
What do we do about those, like the R 1.75 when we're converting them to new? Do we leave them R 1.75?
Are they non-conforming now too?
That, I mean, whatever.
Yeah, because that zone won't exist anymore if we're doing what we're talking about doing, but yeah, we've got.
What you can do, I would say,
Oh, yeah,
you
that's right.
can leave it as a legacy district, but.
I think that might be the thing to do, leave it like.
You say, this district, and you just write it in the code, and say, this code, you know, this district exists, but it is no longer rezoning anything to this.
I'll get with Parker and we'll talk about that later. We're gonna talk about Bitcoin mining too, regulations.
So what's the 1.75 gonna go to?
You wanna make it.
Well,
You wanna
Just,
be.
we've chosen spots that are 1.5 and
Probably
other
need
thing,
one.
it's just whatever it is, 1.75 stays.
No, I have.
But it's.
It used to be able to hear.
It'll stay.
Or you remove it.
Yes. Yeah, so do we
So whichever one.
do
we
something?
do.
That would be nice. Right.
So she changed it. The one that's heavier use.
Look,
Oh, I like it better, that way it makes
yeah,
sense.
it does. I've always thought they were backwards.
Mhm.
There was an elementary school out there.
Right.
Preschool, elementary.
You're not required the developer to participate in all of
Sometimes.
If it's gonna affect that, like the utilities.
it. So are they participating?
Yes, they're actually having to build a new sewer line halfway across Prairie.
Oh, okay.
They're increasing the size of pump station, the way outside.
Take care of those findings.
I would say too, on the traffic, I know what you say,
You can make it.
but I'll just tell you, in my experience, you know, yes, RDOT doesn't wait until the traffic is there to then apply. However, you, in your approval process, should have the ability, you know, to basically say, if this is warranted, you know, we're gonna open it in context. Right, and it's, gotta have them do a traffic study, and then conference do it, that, you know, they at least have to collect their own lot, because there's no reason you should.
Yeah, we had some conversations with them, with my confidence, I found the traffic, and look at the school board.
I mean, it's not like it's city. I don't know, I just, they're.
Between you and me, I mean, I don't ever want to see another, I'm sure they're wrong, but sometimes you gotta have. I'm not sure. It's gonna be not that whole thing, but it never is, but it's still a thing. About 4 inches coming out of this thing, but 2 of them are going to the west, so I'm going to go right in the back. I think depending on, I think kids in school are going to work, going to be credit, which is direction. I got
I just say, we, like, get 5 years down the road, and then the people are, you know, wanting why, is warranted, and then the city has to pay, you know, the whole thing. And I think, to me, you can probably use your preliminary plat approvals process to wrap that in. I have a couple outliers that have been used.
Yeah, I figured.
Is that the piece I got rezoned by Maynard right there?
That's, isn't that Kaden, the old previous station? Or is that? Or-
Is that by one day?
The Oxagon, the RV park.
Right next to one day?
Okay, yeah.
Well, that is visual.
No, it's on that whole side, but I think.
You're too far back, I'm sorry, you're off a little down, that'd be the fire station.
The button's right. That's a big property.
To the left.
You've seen this one, dude.
Does Maynard have anything on the east coast?
Maynard just rezoned all his, remember?
That's, we don't, I didn't know, did he have, that's usually, Charlaine's Harbor.
It's where the,
Two-story house.
it's where the refrigeration place was.
Yes.
It's all the way back.
Okay.
That's it, right there. But he bought that refrigeration place, and I don't know what he's doing, and then we cleaned it up.
It's called Dimension Origin. It's a design and manufacturing.
Part of his other business.
But it's like a
associated with it.
Yeah, it's a
So
machine.
should it be in the? Something like the highway.
I mean, I don't know that there's any manufacturers, as much as they're
Well,
designing.
But the spot that you have V2 right there is an empty lot at the moment.
The backside is.
Yeah. that
Yeah,
whole thing.
he was talking about doing a large scale, they're building a building tree that he would have to rezone it.
Gotcha.
And who knows what he's gonna do, you know, Joe. I don't know, Joe, really.
I can add it to the corridor, I just, because it wasn't hard.
I would say probably it's gonna be some kind of commercial facility. I think it's about.
And what about this? Here. And that.
That's R2.
Then we just.
Yeah. Yeah, you rezone that.
It's the square right here. It's R2.
Do we want, oh, RT.
R2. Yeah, you're not coming. Or no, just recent.
Recently.
So just show it as R2.
Yes. Almost interesting.
They would. All the those.
That is a, he manufactured quite
Already stable.
I started reading the name of the company, that's my neighbor Rick. It's way back,
Where at?
it's right in my front door. That's his house in the green,
Mhm.
and that's his little milling shop right there. So that is a, I'm sure, either a variance or a V two, yeah, that's Larry, but.
That's a long way.
Yeah.
It looks like it's done.
Yeah, I tell him, it makes sense that it would be, he runs it, business out of there.
Mhm.
Well, I actually messaged.
I would, if he were to ever do something different, he'd probably like that to be residential.
Well, I mean, I think we.
He told me
He's-
that the family.
he has a business there.
Just found out.
Right, but if he were to ever sell, then someone else could come put some other high traffic business in there based on zoning. I'd rather see that stay residential.
Hey,
Yeah, he's on board.
Larry, is that little milling shop in my front yard, is that something that's permanently a V two?
Yeah. They rezoned it.
They rezoned it.
So is that what we want?
So do we have to keep it that's that, because you were saying like you would hate if someone bought it to.
You don't have to keep it permanent like that, but I think you would definitely need to have a discussion with them about it, because they rezoned it for whatever business they have in there in the city of Prairie.
So you'd almost have to have a variance, like you'd have to rezone it as a residential, but have the variance or the legacy.
Yeah, it's got a commercial building on it, and I think that was right after they annexed it, after he asked for it to be rezoned after the city annexed it. So we've been using the property commercial, and so they rezoned it.
Yeah, and like he said, you could have businesses up through there. Hey, put commercial all the way down there. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I will say, it seems like a relatively.
It's an odd location, it is an odd
So
location.
it seems like.
Well, it's right beside his house.
and it's
And so he
not-
just walked out his back door and goes in there.
It was there before the city annexed,
I'm just-
we should have just left it up.
Yeah, it should just have a variance, right?
Well, it should have been, yeah.
Conditional use.
It should have been a non-conforming use, but he was going to lease it to somebody else, I think is what the issue was. So he asked for it to be rezoned, but they did.
So
I don't know what that is.
my thought is that, you know, unlike so many other parcels, like. Even if you left it zone commercial, the size and the agriculture.
It is, because it's small. Well, this saves us from having a big discussion too. It might be easier to just leave that. Right. There's no need for one in reality.
So keep myself at peace.
Yes. They probably have to get into that subdivision.
Well, I kind of thought. But, yeah, I don't know if there's, but, I mean, utility is gonna probably. Goes like.
Now would be the time to contact them, because they've got that. Plan.
And actually, I got control and work. You know.
No way.
Yeah. We can look.
John will be back. We got.
It's all about taking a while, but street lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the day after we talked. The next thing that person cleared out the rest of it was working. We have any phone cracks. So. And he thinks about on it. He had. His wife was gonna take all the money.
Dude, she's, she will not manage. So, like, she may make me stay home with the boys, but she won't.
What about? Yeah.
What do you think of that now?
Highway enforcement.
That's
That's pretty down.
What are they gonna do on the backside of the Texas side, or it was just the front side? It's gonna be, well, I think.
When we decided to call it,
Just on practical, because this is all, we actually just got that.
It's multi-family, so I mean, as long as multi-family exists, it can, I think it's fine to do that. It's gonna be a single home, common name development.
Yeah, what is this? The house back here.
It is. It's the guy who bought and jumped that place up. Well, remember, he threatened me in my house police department, that's how they somebody else.
Yeah, I think I already got it showed up.
I think it was, yeah, he threatened me. They had to, they were running that junkyard. That's what it was.
Because we're, as far as the president.
Junkyard's gone, which is really, you know, once it disappeared, I just took it aside, because we followed that 2 years.
So do we want this?
And then another guy came in and did the same thing again, he was a charity. Or for veterans or something, is what he said, that every car that was out there, he found money.
What do you think?
Tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, the commercial buildings right here on the left side of this, the rest of it is pasture. So from about the arrow over, I think the center parcel.
Wouldn't that all just kind of stay mixed use if it's off the highway?
Right there, there's a fence.
I think it's all one part.
Okay, well, then it probably all needs, there's a commercial garage there, so I mean, it probably needs to stay. Yeah, I don't know if you know it or not, Ralph College owns a strip right here along the road, so this property doesn't have access to the Ralph College kept a 7-foot strip. And they did it on purpose. Because they wanted to be able to control. They used to.
Not that on the front side,
He goes all the way to because, they actually, he poured concrete driver out there in the city. He crawled there.
So do you want to keep it?
I think it needs to say commercial somehow, so it could be in that highway corridor, I don't think it would hurt.
Okay.
same country as home. That's.
I think that's about probably one of the main parts.
One element.
So I think that you're all
Question mark. Okay, where we're at. That's the new baker.
Yeah.
It's the new baker. It could be, I mean, it could be added to that area, UB2, it'd be fine in there.
Is that whole area gonna be?
Yeah, actually.
Gary's got his office there.
Is it business? And then the one north of that is overall.
This one's for right here.
Okay.
Did they do an office out of it? No, we wouldn't let it, because he wants to put it there.
Okay.
Well, I
He may be doing it, and I don't know about it, but.
Now it's not that whole place, right? Or is it?
You want,
Where's the line at where?
what they rezoned, is over right here.
Just show her stuff. I'm trying to keep it from into the class.
And they kept this back part here, so this line needs to go straight across here.
Now, what about the rest of that where they're putting all the dirt in it, putting the sewer in?
Being out there.
Does it have to be rezoned, or is that something that we would consider?
I would agree.
Everybody just wastes their last.
Because we need some commercial housing with greater depth.
Yeah, except
The
they're,
biggest problem there is getting to them with that power.
they've already had a turn on their features, I think.
We progress.
They already had their one.
Okay.
That's. Well, we just used ours from last year.
We can always address.
Yeah, we just started practice.
The one track.
You have a practice shield? I mean, there's seven.
To see what the best use.
We
for it
usually set
is,
them up.
because the right commercial buyer might want that.
Are you doing the cotton eye job?
frontage.
I hope not.
And I would hate to designate it as residential.
Yeah. All of it.
Talking to some commercial.
Oh, I thought you said you leave it residential.
But right now, it's like.
Someone mixes them. Track.
So
And
it's like you should
everyone wants it because it's totally different. And it becomes not different.
Yeah, so that's another thing, so I mean, you have there's a lot. And I guess I wanna ask you, I mean, we're working on it. We're gonna do kind of a larger, city initiated rezoning. Is there any of this that you want to rezone a specific way? We have some guidance from utilities and. But,
A lot of our agricultural and state park control, which we don't care.
oh, yes.
All that to the north is state park.
I was thinking more like this.
I was gonna say, out.
Is it covered hill already?
Yes, we're going to concrete hill part of that.
What about that big green part of it right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of it.
That you were doing that.
People come in and
Right. I think we only have single family.
unless they. Grandfathered in, I guess, but.
They're doing that at the candy.
Yeah.
They used to grass and get rid of it.
Yeah, well, because someone, I think was taking care of it. They allowed it.
Maybe that we don't.
Yeah.
Doesn't always.
She is, yeah, she's doing a little here.
I think we should look out on Park Street. If we want that to be a collector street to the bypass. Then I don't know that we want that to remain completely residential, do we? I mean, there's opportunity for commercial. Yeah.
You're talking about the yellow part.
Just along, basically all the way Greenland. That's what we had talked about.
Kind
Kind of south of the creek.
Yeah,
Okay, I thought you were talking about the future street.
well, that's, I mean, if we're looking 20 years down the road, then,
And a lot of it, it's directly adjacent.
right.
We've been surprised at how little land is available commercially that has depth.
Right.
And that's an issue for some of the people who they talk to. When they need 500-foot depth, that's a pretty big. What we call road frontage, like 350 is
But you would think the spots that like you're talking about would be that R15 right there in yellow. That's for sale right now. That would be an option to be commercial. Even though it doesn't match up with Sundowner, it matches up with that corridor kind of going out of town.
Well, and with Taco Bell kind
Right?
of being awful.
Does that need to be, or is that conditional? Yeah, on the north side of the park.
That, yeah,
Northeast
that's
corner
been
of-
B2 for a while. Yeah. That whole,
No, it's a whole block.
Yeah.
Or that whole-
on this
It does
side,
have- It does have that lot still left.
but it's still commercial, yeah.
It may be a small tax office, so it has to be a small footprint.
RB2. RB2 now, which would be, I don't even want to take up much space.
Is this one you're thinking?
That's the one you've got a concept plan already approved as residential. Until it goes somewhere, you really can't, you probably can't do anything. You know, if it goes away,
Which it
We
takes
had
how
someone come in and talk to us about doing a mixed use, where it would be businesses on the frontage. Then rentals, apartments behind it.
we're pretty sure they're trying to sell it, market it, but we had several people.
There's the same guy that did Johnson Square. So they got a little job at 50 Johnson Square and kind of came in and talked to us about.
Did you listen to our meeting?
Concepts. No, he's just a friend of Curtis Stewart.
I'm just saying, we said that at that meeting.
I don't think it's gonna be even, I mean, really just kind of came and picked our brains and wanted to know what was against them. Because I'm sure he's a friend with Curtis and trying to realize why Curtis has been building, why Curtis is trying to sell it, but then we got an idea of what he wants to see.
But if we got ownership over it, we would just come and ask.
Yeah, he would,
Yeah,
he wanted to know what some, it's your dad's line up front, those are Kelly's line.
Carries, well, depends where,
But he talked about even trying to extend it and come up and do some commercial up here and then commercial here and then just houses right around it.
Change it ownership all through the concept.
Not necessarily, that's a good reason, what I've heard from them doing, so change the concept.
Mhm.
If they buy the subdivision as it is, it's like that's nice here.
Well, that's what, if we have a road running from where that current R15 is, Juliet, over to Butler. Cause like we just, in that,
Where the blue is.
basically, yeah, we wanted them to provide a road over to Butler. It would make a lot of sense for all of that to be, it could be commercial.
What about just doing road, frontage along there all the way to that road?
Yeah.
Increase something, right?
Say it again.
Run that commercial down Butler over to that collector road. So that Butler frontage would have some commercial.
That's what you get, you do commercial.
A little bit that way.
Exactly.
If that road's gonna go through there, that would make sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, and that kind of helps us on lot line adjustments that we've been talking about, well, because it gives you a little bit of depth on that, at least on that corner line. Yeah.
Now, we've got that, just that strip along the highway showing commercial, you know, we've been telling them,
Like,
pretty sure the property owners sell.
okay.
Well,
If
and
they
with it
want
being
some-
mixed use, you can have both, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't have to have both there.
Well,
Right.
As long as it's one of the uses that's allowed within that,
but we're gonna wrap that part next, let's go figure out what.
So what-
You know what you wanna do.
Venture to say that entire piece.
I was gonna actually ask,
The pond.
do you cut off the pond? And just do this, when you do residential, or do you keep it all? Oh, pond, and everything, it's all started then. That's really not one good.
Well, if it's mixed use, then
Because it's what you could do with the water.
I mean, that could, if that's, then you feel comfortable doing that.
I was gonna say, what allows us the opportunity to just, yeah, that would be great, to agree with, you know, what that makes sense there. You know, is it changing into that, if you need to, the whole thing, or is it leaving it agriculture, and you gotta come and ask for,
a change.
And then let's think about it for a second, because this is your own going, but everything else you do have, it all is mixed use. And so that, this seems to be the one spot that is cut out when we keeping it residential. Or agricultural, but we just put, mixed use and it kind of matches what we've done with that whole bypass. And it could be used all.
You do it on both sides of the road, Butler, if you were doing that. You know, on
Oh, yeah,
Butler,
that's good.
why would, if you're gonna do it on one side, why wouldn't you do it on the other?
Is that jumping? No.
Not quite, but it's that direction.
Down here, isn't it? Different out of town.
It's gonna be a very expensive piece to develop, sounds like.
Right,
So wet.
yeah. But I'm just saying like, if the north side is mixed use, would the south side not be also?
You would think.
So does anyone
Or
just,
just leave it all agricultural and wait for someone to come and say, hey, I want to use it as that. Because if that's the case, you would need to do the north side until someone came and said, we want to do it.
These seem to be things that you,
So you think,
that you feel pretty good about, like, let's see here.
Well, if someone came in with,
let's just be honest on this, it's a corner property. So if someone comes in with a business item, what do they have to do? They have to come, if the planning commission and do a lot line adjustment, and change things, or is it
Depends,
just?
I mean, if they fit on the parcel that they're buying, they would need to do a lot line adjustment, but they still gotta come back with a large scale development plan and go through that process.
they're doing that either way though, right? So it's not really changing how easy it is for a business to be here.
You're taking out old stuff, rezoning, that's stuff.
Okay,
So then
so it
you-
does make it easier.
Larry,
Because in reality, that road is not as conducive to commercial as Park Street. So to not have Park Street have commercial seems silly to me, but you got it on Butler, because I mean, I've been out in Butler, it doesn't feed the pavement very well, you know?
Well, but here, I mean.
Park Street in Illinois, Chapel, are built out, there's nothing except that
That's.
one piece of property that they're looking at doing something with, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Built.
And maybe with that road being added, if you did have high density homes there, or let's say, hey, Johnson Square, type place came in and did something there. That makes Butler much more commercial appealing, you know, for all of us, that whole area. I could say that whole area could be commercial very easily.
And the other thing that, you know, even though, yes, Park Street is more of your thoroughfare to the back road, right, Fayetteville, there's already a substantial amount of existing residential property there, so any new commercial would impact those existing people that, you know, didn't buy into that when they bought that house.
Yeah.
Whereas Butler's completely is a blank slate.
We say that though, but if you bought on Illinois Chapel, so you could get to Fayetteville, or you probably do, that's a great side of town, because you can get to Fayetteville fast.
Yeah.
You knew there was gonna be traffic, for those that have been there in the last 20, 30 years, probably.
Yeah, I'm just saying, some kind of big commercial,
Yeah.
you know,
is it correct, Larry, that if we change the zoning from agriculture to anything else, if somebody's cutting hay on that, whatever else, they wouldn't be allowed to let that hay grow up, and cut hay because that would.
they would no longer be exempt.
They would no longer, so that's a fair way of saying, so that's one thing to think about, if I own 10 acres and I'm cutting hay off of it, if we go and change the zoning, they will no longer be able to let that hay grow up and cut hay off. Telephone company? Because it's not zoned agriculture anymore, they have to maintain the yard. That's, that's a question, Larry, but I mean, we have that too, right, right. So I want to be cognizant of that.
That's what I did.
Because that's what I'm thinking, the good thing is that we're taking out stuff, but there's.
That's for those. Yeah.
There's a lot of other restrictions that only, I mean, there's a lot of exemptions that go with agricultural. Livestock, being able to let weeds and grass grow up, you know, the maintenance requirements aren't there as strict on your property that they are.
Right, which has its pros and cons of that, but if somebody's running a few head of cattle or whatever else on there now, and we change the zoning, that causes problems.
You found the cut pay on that one? I know it's kind of a
Well-
question, maybe they cut.
They grow.
they don't, but they'll, I mean, they're in
They feed.
California. But
And even if it's agricultural and they are maintaining it now and stop, we can still go after them to clean up the property. If it ever stops being and they start doing something else with it, they can't go back.
So be cautious on that.
We've dealt with that with the golf course.
Okay. But I mean, you know, if we're changing code, you can change that.
That's what
part
I'm
of the
saying,
code
we
too.
not adjust.
The way that reads, it's not supposed to be
It does, that's.
And that is a separate ordinance, that has nothing to do with the development ordinance, that's part of the property maintenance ordinance.
I would much rather see that change than us keep a zoning classification for people to cut hay.
I agree with that.
Grandfather it in.
Now, devil's advocate always, you're going to get tons of people when you change that, that will use that to not maintain property. So be careful. I mean, I think we need to think it through.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, okay, we're trying to think ahead because we all think commercial would be great there. But we're saving them one step, presenting like, can we get this rezoned? How hard is it to get that brought up, voted on, and what's the timeframe that has? Because most large scale development is not a month or two.
I always tell them on a rezone 45 days, give us 45 days.
So I mean, it's 45 days, something that says a business won't come in right there.
No, but I do think. So my thought is, what's nice about having this zoning map is someone comes in with something and we don't like it or whatever. It's pretty clearly stated, no. Cause I mean, we've had some issues on other where it was kind of mixed use. We really had no leg to stand on because there was some multifamily housing and stuff like that. So like, that's personally what I wanna see is very clear, and I know that's not the case, but very defined zoning to protect us.
Yeah.
And so you leave this, if you leave things open, you leave yourself open for lots of people to come in with lots of ideas.
And we have a lot of yays and nays we have to do.
Yeah.
And it'll be like.
Well, and you tell homie on the corner here where she's got her MUB2, he can put a car lot there. And then someone comes in next to him and wants to do something, and we're like, oh, no, that's residential, cause we've left it, or agriculture, we've left it that way, and they just gotta. Or a variance, then well, why not? You let him have it. So whatever we decide is kind of setting a precedent.
Yeah.
Or you're probably gonna have to change your code, because, I mean, what we're changing along that bypass, the Amon Farm,
Yeah,
or property, and the white
it's a lot.
property, if they're running cattle.
That's what I'm saying, we arguing about one little patch here,
We've done
the
a
whole bypass.
Yeah, we're rezoning the whole bypass and every bit of it.
So that's what I'm saying, we did it to the speeds, we did it to the oils.
Almost has to go away then, or be rewritten.
I'm
Right.
already thinking of ways that it can be rewritten, we just gotta be very careful with this, because I can see people using these as loopholes to not maintain property.
With that said, I think we do, I think we stretched that out.
You can make it a non-conforming use.
We did that to the whole bypass.
And every other thing.
The
The main agricultural, and he knows exemption.
I think that might be better, we just give it on the bypass, we know it's gonna be well.
Never change it.
Kind of a temporary non-conforming, non-conforming use, the ordinance is, because we don't want something in the middle of town. To get down there, and now we don't have the enforcement to make it, that's just because they got a big lot that they.
So that goes through, he used that with the golf course out there, he tried to say that it was agricultural, he didn't have to mow it, well, he'd been maintaining it, so he couldn't go back.
Well, there's vacant lots in town, and some know to change their hands and they start up here, you know.
They're occupied a lot in town.
Well, people already know it, but.
We had that conversation today, there's a different standard today.
So is everyone good with moving this to MUB2, and that way it matches the bypass, and then we're gonna look at.
I think if you do it on the north side, do it on the south side.
Yeah.
What is the difference?
Well, because I think we have to rewrite it anyway, because we did that with the Steve's property, with the old property, I mean, with everything that runs that
Yeah,
stuff.
so I'm saying if you're gonna go MUB2 on the north side of Butler, why would you not do it on the south side?
Because it doesn't restrict them from selling to a residential development if they want.
And keep in mind, this will go to a public hearing, so all these people will have an opportunity to come.
But you can't tell me that there's other,
I'm
not
sure
other,
chairman's on the south side, so.
cities who have the hay cutting, cattle running, et cetera, around here.
I don't think it's like, you know, on the
Yeah,
interstate.
well, you can, yeah, you can drive to Rogers and still see hay bales on 49, I mean.
There's gotta be a way to
There's a
word
way.
that protects the
Yeah.
city.
That's just the way it's worded today.
Yeah.
We can just ask Parker then. Look at other ones, or Juliet, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
You might go to that.
Now, are the lots further south, is that outside city limits? That's, cause it doesn't have a color.
Yeah.
Do we ever think about annexing all that, letting it be commercial, or is that not what's the process there? I don't know, man.
And it was part of providing others then.
we have it, we have stuff in the waiting area designated on doing. So I think, you know, as in Phoenix, and you would be able to refer to that, you know, give guidance on, you know, rezoning request, so that is covered, when we can't zone it, I wouldn't previously next up.
Yeah, so you were saying like, we have to provide services, so what we would do is wait until things got out to that point, and that will logical next, so that wouldn't burden us to provide services.
There are certain services that have to be provided, but the main thing is you have to define what services you're going to provide. And it doesn't have to be all services necessarily. You have to identify that in the ordinance when you annex it. There's 3 ways to annex. One is the city can initiate an annexation, and then it has to go to the voters to actually vote on it. Anybody in the city limits gets to vote, anybody in the annexed area gets to vote. You know, that's already skewed against the people in the annexed area, because there's a lot more people in that. But the other way they can petition, if there's property owners out there that want to be in, like for property recently, they can petition, and then that's a whole different process where they just have to petition the county judge. He releases it to the city, and the city takes it. And then the third way we can annex is if a piece of land actually gets surrounded on 3 sides, then we can go ahead by ordinance and annex it. But that's the only way you can annex.
The petition on the petition in.
Has to go to
Unless you think something in first is gonna happen, you know, we not have the other city competing, you know, on the side for, and I can't think of.
Yeah, the last annexation we did was 2014 when the bypass was built, or just prior to the bypass.
Is that something that's a positive, negative, I don't know, that's all I'm
It's
asking,
always controversial. I mean, I don't care.
because the taxes raised or what?
People coming in never want to. And, you know, they usually get a spare amount of people that are in town that are mad about everything in the world do, so it's just always controversial.
Does the town, does it benefit the town to grow like that, to annex pieces?
If you've got a legitimate reason to protect an area, or if you've got a legitimate reason where it looks like there's going to be something out there that wants services, that's a good reason to annex.
Gotcha. Because like right now, there is nothing out there that says we
There's
want.
no good reason out there right now. Now, if they wanted our services and there was something gonna happen out there, that's a reason why, and we'd ask them to petition.
Trying some places about them things that offer, because they're already getting fire, and their water belongs to Washington Water Authority.
But I can see like, if I was to own any of that property or whatever, and all this was coming mixed use and it starts getting developed, like. What keeps it from not wanting to, like every other piece of land?
Usually when somebody's ready to develop because they want something from us, then they usually petition. We've had Ralph Coleman petition in land quite a bit up at the golf course. Bardor is the most recent one we've had petition.
Okay. City probably doesn't, that road's falling apart.
It's always a little controversial with the county too, because the county is always very sensitive about giving up tax base. And, you know, the county judge, I've never seen them turn one down, but they can.
Gotcha.
And we have had some starky comments from county judges in the past we've annexed.
Okay, thank you for that.
They especially like it when we annex the bridge that they just.
Or a road that just paid.
Richard, wait for y'all to do
Okay.
Well, in the case of Park Street, we annexed it and then we built a new bridge.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Got the zip trip, you can see a nice bridge of the Indian Republic.
I mean, all this, you're living. Floodplain. I mean, then you have all the parking, all of the, I think those are.
Like you said, there is a lot of training.
It is, I mean, so to me, if there's other places you want to concentrate on, it's not being like.
Yeah. So what kind of like $1 house? Yeah, that's that. So yes.
It's got it's pending. I saw it pending the other day, so I was like, I love that house.
Where?
Yeah, another, that 1.1 million. It's got the house, the barn and the shop, and like that.
Oh, right behind Keys, yeah, across the mill, it's really pretty.
It's so pretty, but it's. Went in my budget. But it's pending. I saw that the other day, coming to me that it's happening.
You want to have any of this stuff? I don't know what kind of development pressure do you have?
Nothing right now, but it's about to get worse. When there's money
Can
involved.
you zoom in a little?
There's no road there.
Yeah, now, there hasn't been any yet. This is gonna become a much more major road, and it's being improved on the Farmington side, but you're probably where.
Yeah.
Garbage is all. And.
Well, they're putting a school back there, aren't they?
We're gonna take the rest of this.
They bought land for a school.
The highway department, that they, that
Here,
further on to where the city limits are, then it's Farmington from there on. Which we need to come up with a new name for that road, by the way.
Which one?
170 will no longer be 170. I think so, that'd be what I would call it.
There's a subdivision name that in there.
There's a community right there called Walnut Grove.
Yeah, this right here.
What the church is called? Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, the church at Robertson's.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a good name for it. It shouldn't matter, but the community.
I think it's okay if agricultural for now, because 170 is another strip, you know, depending on how that develops in the future. There may be some opportunity there for commercial, who knows? I think that's gonna be a.
See, that's why I made that comment the other day, is that anything within so many feet, not the whole parcel, but even if it's touched. It would be easy to have a business now, not saying what's there, but in the future, like I can say, I can get right off, a little cheaper. You know, and I can put some type of business that I don't need through fair, but everybody that knows about me can get right off there and do that, you know, like that's something that I can see people want.
It's all pretty agricultural right now, and there hasn't been, I guess we did have a subdivision, maybe on this piece right here. Proposed back in the 2000s, back when the first building came through.
What is it?
It's where the people that own Phillips, part of their property.
Oh, okay.
They were gonna put in a subdivision, I can't remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
of it. Yeah, they did a preliminary plat on it. Do you remember that?
Brookhaven?
No, the one on.
Brookhaven, everybody yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. I can't think of the name of it. They submitted preliminary, but then they wouldn't wait.
It's probably good for you.
You know, that's too much.
He was in Australia, and I remember that.
Is there anything in here, kind of area like on you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a duplex down there.
I mean, do you want, is that an area that you would want to extend this week? And then I kind of, like, I pulled in the R3, and then I pulled in this area because it seems to me like kind of continuing off here, but I wasn't sure about this other stuff that was not brought to you.
There's a lot of mixed use multifamily in there. I think it's okay, R2, a lot of duplexes and even, I think,
Well,
But I mean,
back there, just the townhouse, the four wheel.
the townhouses, there's, yeah.
Didn't someone have an office building down there in an old home, but they just rezoned it or something of it? Well, that's good.
I mean, would it make sense to,
I think that, the other way, it was.
It was business and they were residential.
Big Jack or.
Whatever, I like the whole established neighborhood, I don't think it's gonna change drastically in the next.
Residential.
Mostly well cut older.
I guess it's not.
Nursing home.
2000, very much R1.
I remember you guys said that.
There's a random house.
For respect to 3 lots or.
Yeah.
I think, didn't we rezone those? So,
Yeah, I was thinking we did too. Yeah, that probably needs to go in our law as well. They're all saying that, yeah, but they're.
I think that was,
Yeah, that's the nursing. That's.
Oh, good, it's not, hey,
It's the turnaround.
We should come back with it.
Do it.
Next step, the public hearing, and then she gonna come back with all.
I think we just tell them where to do before.
Land, they got land.
If they ever would, Dr. Mitchell doesn't know that. I think it's all.
It's a conglomerate, I think. There's one that owns, one enforcement.
Very helpful.
Yeah, it'll go through a public hearing process, and when you adopt it, that will be the document.
Let down.
Will you do a public hearing like you did the one at the library? Or is it just gonna be like in here?
What's the standard for?
The public hearing would be like they did the one at the library or just here? Right.
Seems to be not paying motion to adjourn.
I just ordered pizza.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Order pizza.